Welcome everybody to the SBE Podcast, the show here at Maastricht University where we speak with exciting people out of the SBE cosmos about science, business, societal issues and everything else that is relevant to us. My name is Marcel, I'm a master's student here at SBE and I'm very excited to have a great guest on today's episode. His name is Jakob Manthei. He is an alumni of SBE and Maastricht University and he actually just graduated 4 years ago. And the thing is, he has a super interesting story to tell because he built his own career since then in a super interesting field. Because Jakob is an entrepreneur who coaches other people in improving their presentation skills and their styles. And of course, he's doing several other things, as every good entrepreneur does. And we will discuss all those things. How does it feel like to be an entrepreneur at that very early stage of his professional career? And of course, we will also talk about what it means to be a presentation coach. Hopefully, this is at least what I hope for, we get some tips and tricks here on how each and every one of us can maybe improve their presentations a little bit. Let's see what we can get out of Jakob Manthei today. Jakob, first of all, so great to have you here. Hi and hello.
Hello. Now people expect to all get better grades in their upcoming presentations.
No pressure here.
And people will already judge my speaking skills. Yeah.
Exactly. All eyes on you. No, just kidding. Before we start about talking all the things that you're doing, that you're coaching, that you're teaching, and also how does it feel for you to be self-employed and an entrepreneur, first of all, you're back at Maastricht University. It has not been super much time since you left. However, how does it feel for you to be back here in your old university?
Yeah. Do you know the movie Inside Out 2 with all the different emotions? Have you watched it?
I know that it exists.
Okay, so it's just the Pixar movie. There's different emotions. And in the second movie, there's this emotion. It's called nostalgia. It's like an old lady. And in the movie, it said, no, we're too young for this. But today I had so much nostalgia. I saw my old home. I took the walk. I took to university. I saw people talking about GPA and the exchange and which university they could do for their master's. So I'm just hit with nostalgia this entire time. But yeah, it's great to be back. Like, I'm really excited.
I guess so. I mean, of course, you spent 3 years here. We have to say that Jakob graduated with his Bachelor in International Business here. Is that correct?
International Business and Economics.
Exactly.
Started the EBE and then I went to the international track.
Okay, got it. So the best of both worlds here at SBE, I would say. If you take back your thoughts on that time when you studied here, what stood out to you out of that bachelor time that you spent here?
What stood out? A lot of things. So for me, my university was very interesting because I had the COVID split, right? So I had 1.5 years of studying and I did the typical, I went to circus at Complex, I focused on university, I really wanted to make it to California, so I still had the student focus. But then the COVID time hit as well, so I saw both worlds. And I don't know, like it really, I still like, the cool thing is I still am in touch with so many different people who studied here. And it's cool to see that, I don't know, people at Maastricht, they have a certain drive and ambition that kind of takes them around their career. So that's also something that I definitely like connect with Maastricht. And otherwise, I had an awesome time here. Like it's been 3.5 years, so I look at it with nostalgia, the same emotion, but very good memories, and I had such a cool time here.
I guess so. I mean, that's always great to hear. And I think what you said is super interesting. The community and the students here, as you said, of course, they're all, after graduating, taking different paths in their personal and their professional life and all their choices that they make afterwards. And of course, we will especially talk about the path that you took, or that you are still taking since then. Yeah. But you mentioned, let's see how you got there. You mentioned that you wanted to go to California, to the United States, and in the end you did, if that's right. Yeah. You went to San Diego with an exchange or with an exchange semester? Or
yeah, with an exchange semester.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you ended up in San Diego. How was that, going to the United States with an exchange semester, young student, going to the US? How did that felt for you?
Yeah, so because of the COVID time, I actually was forced to postpone my exchange. So I had an interesting scenario where I had my bachelor thesis fully written, and I went to California and they said, hey, all you are supposed to do is to pass the exams. And I was like, wow, I'm in California.
This is the perfect word.
This is the perfect scenario, yeah. So I immediately, one good friend here from Maastricht, he also went, Hendrik. And I met another good friend there directly. So the three of us, we decided to rent a car at deepcheapcarrental.com. And we got a Toyota Corolla for like $600 a month. We split it by 3, so it was $200 each. And I don't know, like, so the cool thing is I was able to have really interesting courses, but I also had an amazing time to the side. Like I went, the university was at the beach, so I went surfing there. We took the car ride, like we went once to Santa Barbara for a weekend to meet some friends. We went to Los Angeles. We once flew to Maui for over a weekend. And the interesting thing is you're always told that, hey, when you go for an exchange, it's always easier compared to Maastricht. And I thought, yeah, that's true, but University of California, like that's such a higher ranked university.
Top notch, absolutely.
I studied 11 hours per week, maybe, including the forced time that I was supposed to go in class time, and I had a GPA of 4.1. And
respect.
Like the thing is, if you go back to my high school time, I was always on the average, little bit above. But it truly is, once you went through the Maastricht University period, even the biggest universities are quite relaxed. And then I remember I was thinking, how can I make it the best time possible? So I made the courses only Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday,
That's smart.
Yeah, I was off.
That's smart. I mean, of course, that speaks of the high quality of Maastricht University, I would say, on the other hand.
100%, yeah.
But of course, also, I mean, let's be honest, exchange semesters, of course, they're there for studying, but they are also getting to know yourself, having a good time.
The culture, too. I met so many international people, and also it gives you some time to really think about where do I want to go next, right? And I think that also was very important because I don't know, I heard it again, like just on the hallways, people saying, I do this internship, but I'm not sure. Like you kind of think once you sign up to university, then I know the path. But once you're in it, you realize, oh no, there's so many paths still like to choose.
Exactly.
So it was also great to have a step away out of my typical routine and be able to reflect, hey, what do I like? What do I not like? Where do I want to go? And ultimately this was another one of the best times of my life, and it really helped me to see, hey, where do I want to go? Yeah.
I guess so, and I think this is the perfect transition to actually talk about what you back then wanted to do and also what you're doing right now, because as I already announced, you are working as a presentation coach, and I think you developed your interest in that area in San Diego. Is that, do I recall it
I think
correct?
it really started in Maastricht.
Okay.
So I was already I remember I sat in my little room, 2 Slagersdreef was my street. Maybe somebody lives there as well.
Maybe someone lives in your room now.
That would be awesome, yeah. 8D is mine, yeah. And I was sitting there thinking, hey, what can I do? And what I really enjoyed doing, when I was 15, I was giving tennis lessons. Here I was at Success Formula giving statistical courses, QM1, QM2. I was
the full program, yeah.
yeah, full SBE. And I always enjoyed the teaching part. And somehow in that room I said, yeah, you know what? I see people struggling with social skills. So let me go really deep into that and understand it and then see if I can help people. And I read around 55 books on people skills here in the little room in Maastricht and in the library and whenever I wasn't studying or something. And when I was in San Diego, I saw this course by Dale Carnegie. And Dale Carnegie wrote the number one, or the most sold social skills book out there. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Okay. Very American self-help title. And I said, hey, if I see myself in that industry, I better check out what they do. And I signed up to that course with the objective, let me figure this out and then see if this works for me. And I went to the course. And I think in week 4, the instructor came to me and said, hey, Jakob, I never met anybody that is that much into this topic as you are. Why don't you become a trainer? And as I already said, it was a time where I was reflecting a lot what I can do, and I didn't have as much of a plan after the exchange semester. So I said, yeah, maybe. and I contacted the Munich office of Dale Carnegie and ended up becoming one of the youngest Dale Carnegie trainers in Germany, at least. I think the second youngest, although I was 22, 23. So it's like a 6-7 month time span where you get trained as a trainer. Actually very intense. Not as intense as Maastricht, but more intense than San Diego time.
I think nothing is as hard as Maastricht from your perspective. So awesome.
But then, like, imagine you're 23, and then suddenly you're put into a room with 58 to 65-year-old C-level people, and then you teach them about communication, social skills. I even was in a sales training once, which was, I think, the worst training I ever had. But that's maybe a story for later. And it's very interesting because now you are expected to be not the guy like listening to the lecture, but giving a workshop in a way that people actually transform and take away a lot from it. And yeah, I think that's a good time to pause, because then from there it evolved the remaining training world.
Immediately a question about that. Of course, as you said, it must feel super, maybe at first a bit weird or maybe not very usual to be with top managers in a room telling them or training them on how to improve their presentation, their social skills and so on. What was your experience with that? Do you have the feeling that they also saw an advantage in that, having maybe someone, let's say, out of their demographic, out of their world, giving them new perspectives, or were they maybe a bit skeptical at the first moment?
I think at the beginning, you don't know. Like, the thing is, I definitely was more self-conscious, because you get started, you see somebody like sitting like that, you're thinking, oh, what can I do to like engage them? But in the last year, it became more of an advantage. Like a recent example, I gave a training at Essex, like the shoe company. It was in the Netherlands. And it was also the C-level team. And it was a 2-day presentation skills training. And many of them came up to me and said, hey, Jakob, this was one of the best trainings we ever had. Like, it's so engaging, it's so different. And they again just reached out to me saying, hey, can we do another workshop for the team? And at the end of the call, I asked them, what made you reach out again to me? And said, the thing is, you're more young, and you kind of get it. And the other option is, like, older trainer that don't really speak the language. They have this old style of presenting, because now it's also a lot more authentic. Before it was a lot more rigid. I would speak to like this in the podcast and present myself as the public speaking trainer, and it doesn't really land anymore. So the cool thing is that by now I'm in a position where my young age is actually a massive advantage compared to somebody who did this for years. And another example of this is that by now most of the presentations are a lot more online. Like, think about a job interview. You're going to have the job interview online, right? And the first call at least. But many of the older, very good presenters, they're not really as keen on online presenting, and there's nobody who has the technical side, but also the presentation knowledge combined. So now it's an unfair advantage almost, because I'm younger. And I'm almost sad that I'm getting older slowly. And but that's how things will change.
That's life, I think. But it is an interesting background and perspective here. And of course, nowadays presenting is also, I think, a lot about the different channels that a presentation is maybe even afterwards distributed, I would say. Mm-hmm. Of course, depends on the context. If you do a company internal presentation, of course, this is something internal. But if you give a speech, also maybe a company speech, a lot of companies using snippets nowadays to promote their brand, their vision, their strategy, whatever, on Instagram, on TikTok, and so on.
And if you think about it, TED Talks, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, it's 17-minute talks. They're on YouTube. And the thing is, there are some very brilliant talks. Awesome, great presentation style, funny, interesting. And they have 20 views.
Crazy.
I'm not saying to say views are everything. But once you realize that, once you have a big TED Talk, the career opportunities that unlocks are insane. Brené Brown, Simon Sinek, there's so many people who, I don't know, Simon Sinek, you know Simon Sinek?
No.
Okay, he wrote a book Start With Why. Before he was Simon, and now he's Simon Sinek, and older generations would know him a lot more. But it was because his TED Talk went kind of viral. And the interesting thing is that that's something I was like thinking in my brain. Maybe I should focus on it on YouTube, because the last 2 years I focused so much on YouTube content and strategy with titles and thumbnails, etc. But many of those talks, they're very optimized for the audience that's listening, which is great. It should be, right? It's for them.
Exactly.
But they completely forget some of the things that are crucial for also striving in the virtual world. And it's a difference between giving a great TED Talk where people say, awesome, and giving a great TED Talk. And I heard one guy, he gave a TED Talk, and for the next 5 years, he was booked out of business because it had 4 million views on YouTube. Yeah.
I mean, this shows, of course, I think that if you catch the right content in the right style, of course, maybe also at the right moment, that for sure is also a factor that of course also pays in there.
Yeah.
It is like with any kind of media, right? If you hit that one popular song at that very good time and the snippet of that went viral on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever, then you play the big festival shows for the next 5 years, you know what I mean? And it seems like can be somehow connected, even though it's a different kind of content here.
Yeah, but like imagine you give a TED Talk and it's called, I don't know, How the Billy Cup Will Change Your Life.
Yeah.
Would you click on that and watch it? Maybe not, right? Like, but if it's like, even if and then there's an image of somebody like far away, bad camera quality, whereas some of the TED Talks, if you just compare the best ones and lowest ones, they're typically from the belly up shots, or somebody pointing at a whiteboard. And then they also have a title that creates some sort of unanswered question. Sure. For instance, Billy Cup. The small change that transforms something around climate change. It would require a bit more time to come up with the right title, but it just means like shifting the focus a little bit. And then once you have that said, then over-delivering your presentation in the room. Because you still, you do it for them, but there's also a big audience of online people that can really benefit from your idea worth sharing, right? Which is that's kind of main mission.
Definitely. I think this brings me right into a topic that I think is something that I ask myself, and I'm for sure not the only one, but starting a bit broader, your ambition, I read that, I think, on your LinkedIn or at some communication
somewhere, yeah.
Where you say that your ambition is to disrupt the way people give online presentations, but I guess also presentations in general. Mm-hmm. So maybe starting overall, what makes a presentation great?
Do you now mean an online presentation or like presentation in general?
Let's start with presentation in general. What makes a presentation great?
Mm-hmm. Can you give me like more of a concrete, because it's the thing is, so like the type of presentation, like the audience and the setting completely changes what is a good presentation, right?
What makes a university presentation for a research project in class great?
Okay, research project in class. Sometimes I have workshops for very data analytical people, which I assume is a similar audience. And the goal, the presentation goal is, hey, let's convince people. And they give a presentation about, I don't know, convincing people to use the Billy Cup, all right? That's their presentation. Yeah. And they give this presentation, and afterwards I asked the very data-heavy people to write down what made it convincing. And then people write down stuff like, the body language, he used the story, he used the tone. And then what I do, so you have like this list of 20 things that made it convincing. And I give them a red pen and say, okay, mark in red what has to do with content. And I repeat, those are data analytical people. And on average, maximum 1 to 2 things are in red, and everything else has to do with how you say stuff or how you engage the people. And I think one of the big misconceptions that people have when they present, they prepare and it's all about the information. And then what do you do 10 minutes before presentation? What do you think about?
Good question, actually. Let's say in the same scenario, that is maybe in-class presentation.
Yeah.
Maybe an overview about the things that I think I'm going to say.
Yeah, content, right?
Exactly.
So we always think about content, but we rarely think about, okay, how can I deliver the content in a more interesting way? or we don't really ask ourselves, okay, how can I present it in a way that people are engaged or moved by the message, right? We always think content. And content is and stays the most important thing, right? So because if you take away good content, then it's for nothing. But I think like a formula I once heard is content plus structure multiplied by your delivery.
Okay.
So the content is important, the structure you use, but how you deliver, that is the one thing that will truly excel you. And there are so few people that are in data that also excel in how they deliver, that use stories, that engage the audience, that present well. And those are ultimately the ones that will strive. And I think here at Maastricht, the people have a massive advantage because we already do give so many more presentations than a typical university. So in some cases, people join a company and there's a presentation, they're like, no, not for me. Or they present it in a way where everybody falls asleep after 10 seconds. You already started the skill here at Maastricht that you are able to do it with a bit more confident, you're able to do it more fun, the varying levels of like how confident and fun you can do it. But if you really focus more on that, like on the delivery of side of things and wrapping things in an interesting way or on a cool framework or like building things up, I think that's the one thing that will truly excel your little university presentation. And if you started with a story or you say, hey, there's 3 crucial points, and then you kind of already that, like little things like that you give people like a good structure, that really makes a presentation interesting, even for people who are just sitting there because they're supposed to sit there, right?
Exactly, but when it comes to that delivery part, which as you said multiplies then or accelerates the content and the structure, is it possible to generalize some factors of that delivery part that makes the delivery part great? Is it the active body language? Is it the eye contact? Is it using as few notes as possible? I don't know. What are specific things that make the delivery part better, if that is generalizable?
Yeah, so,
I don't know.
Yeah, I think for sure there's like certain... And the thing is, I can ask any participant, okay, what makes good eye contact? What would you say?
The eye contact.
Okay, what about gestures? How should you best use them?
Of course, stay in front of the crowd. Of course, not using your hands in all directions, but of course, in an open way, not in a closed way, I would say.
There you go, yeah. Hands should not really touch, right? It's like a general rule, because that seems
exactly, not all the time like that. Maybe also look at specific people in the crowd, which you could maybe also use as fixed points, maybe here and there, in case that you are not completely confident or sure. I think
perfect. Yeah. What about voice variety? What do you think is optimal there?
Of course, depends on the content then maybe.
Yeah.
But of course, if there's something interesting, if there's a conclusion, there is a summary, or maybe some introductory part, I would guess. But I'm of course curious if you would agree or disagree with that. Of course, this is something where you get maybe not louder, but a bit more direct, I would say.
And then you know the difference. Like sometimes you say things with energy.
Yeah. When it comes to explaining 10 different numbers in a row, of course, you know... Of course, it's
you don't
numbers.
say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like
exactly, but it's more. First, we see that and that. Of course, that can conclude to that and that. Based on that, we have that foundation. The result is that and that number.
Yeah,
that is what I think. But this is, of course.
But that's the thing. So that is, everybody knows what kind of makes a good presenter and a bad presenter. And I ask in every workshop, hey, what is like good body language? And those tips across the board, they are true. But there's 2 problems with these kind of tips that can kind of occur. The first one has to do with knowing versus doing.
True.
Right? Like I'm guessing we all know a professor that kind of presents in a very boring way. If I were to ask them, they say, yeah, I do a lot of voice variety. Whereas if we listen to them, they're like very monotone. You're like, there's no variety. So what we actually do versus what we know, there's a big gap in presentations. And that's something I like to do in some workshops, just to film people and watch it back with them. And I don't even say anything. Like we just say, what did you observe? And they directly see, oh, I'm pretty monotone. I didn't really realize that. Say, oh, really? Okay. And then the second thing that people get wrong with those fundamentals is it gets very easy to get into your head, you know? Because now you're supposed to do eye contact. Okay, hands not touching each other, good posture, tell a story, yeah? And like you have all like those things that you want to focus on that you kind of completely override.
And it feels not natural anymore.
No, you're like... So, and the third element is that also people are also very critical of their presentations. So what I kind of like coined is like the 3+1 technique.
Okay.
Where you record yourself and you watch it back and you first mention 3 things you're doing well. Because I'm sure you do some eye contact, there's some body language. And if you don't notice them, you only focus on the worst, on the bad part, obviously you're not going to feel confident in the next presentation. And then the one thing is, hey, what is the one thing I want to focus more on for the next presentation? And if you think, like for me, often it's like slowing down. And then I focus more on slowing down. But I focus on one thing and I'm willing to slow down even if I touch my hands during it. And another thing that helped me is to also remember, as long as it's not distracting, it's okay. Like this, don't be distracting. Exactly. This is not optimal, but it's okay. Yeah. So the step-by-step improvement makes a big difference. Yeah.
Interesting. And as I said, your focus, of course, is presentations in general, but even more specific. And I think, I don't know if that is just an assumption of mine, but as you experience studying in a virtual and in a physical way, and you're now giving coachings for physical presentations, but also online presentations. I don't know if there's a connection between that experience from your study time and now your professional work. Yeah. But anyway, what are maybe, first of all, main differences for you when it comes to delivering a physical presentation to an online presentation?
So the fun thing is I actually gave a guest lecture for Maastricht University last week.
Cool.
On virtual presentations.
Aha, here we go.
And I just like I think many people forget like your first impression in person is obviously what you wear, how you look, and we all know that first impressions are important and they're kind of unfair, right? But the thing is that your camera setup is that virtual first impression. And something that changed is similar to here. You only see typically from that point onwards. But also your eye contact changes. Before you look around and you look at different people, now you look into this black camera, right? Optimally. And something I kind of told them that helps, if you have like a Zoom meeting, let's say here's the camera, and here's somebody that I'm looking at, it's very difficult to have eye contact, right? So make the Zoom window very small, so it's only like here. And then even if I look at the eye contact here, I kind of have eye contact with the... Man, it's a multi-purpose Billy Cup, huh?
Shout out to Billy Cups at that point, I would say.
Yeah, but the eye contact, and also your mimics become more important, like your facial expressions. So that's why the biggest basic ever is to either you face the camera, like here's the window, and you look towards the window, or if that's not possible, to go on Amazon and buy a $20 light you can put on top of your laptop. It makes a massive difference how you come across, especially in a job interview, because there's your first impression. The final thing is you really want to... Final thing? Yeah, two more things. You want to have like maximum this much headspace above your head. So sometimes in the meeting, you have people that are like this, and then you just see the head, and like it doesn't come across as good. Yeah. And you just want to make sure that you see kind of like from this upwards, have one hand away of distance. And then finally, virtual backgrounds. It was actually found out that having a real background, clean, not this virtual Zoom, etc., comes across as the most credible and the most charismatic. So throwing you some basics here, but again, just film yourself and then you can see what are 3 things I'm already doing well, what is one thing I can improve. Maybe it's a better microphone.
And if we now go maybe into a specific scenario like we did with the physical presentation, let's say, because you said that, a job interview, for example, you are in a job interview or in a job case study, and you also have to present a certain case that you worked on. Doesn't matter what the content is. But you worked, let's say, created a small presentation there, some PowerPoint slides, worked, half an hour on that, and now you have to give a short presentation about that to HR, to the manager, whoever is hiring you.
Yeah.
Do you have practical recommendations maybe for that situation? then that go beyond what you just said when it comes to overall impression and setting everything up?
So Zoom and Teams both have this very cool function that not everybody knows. And in Teams, it's called the presenter mode. Do you use that before? Have you heard it before?
I know it exists.
Yeah. So basically, the typical way you share your screen is you disappear, and all you see now is you sharing your PowerPoint presentation. But that makes the PowerPoint the main presenter rather than you, right? And we all can imagine, like we all know a presentation where the PowerPoint is the main part, and we know we don't want to sit in that room anymore, right? After 5 minutes. So if you Google like just put in like, hey, Zoom or Teams presenter mode and kind of watch a 1-minute tutorial how to do it, you can have sometimes you can switch during the presentation a side-by-side view, or you kind of like in the green screen, or then you jump back to actually sharing the screen or just showing you. So not just sharing the screen and then for 30 minutes not changing it, because that's no variety, that's all the same. And in the online setting, variety becomes even more important, because it's so easy to get distracted. Like nobody finds out. You can just check, you can order your Uber Eats food.
Sure.
Nobody knows, only you. In person, you kind of do it secret under the table. So it's way more important to engage people, and variety is ultimately what it boils down to. And also when I give a workshop I think we talked about ethics, then also I make sure that there's a lot of variety. Sometimes people talk in groups of 2, then in groups of 3, in groups of 4, 6, group presentation. Sometimes you're filmed, sometimes there's a different type of presentation. If I give online training, this becomes even more important to have variety. Sure. In a way that people are like re-engaged. Otherwise, it's easy to lose attention.
Sure. Yeah, I think this is a very good recommendation, but that, of course, you can also use in different contexts, I think, right? Also, maybe if you have an online university. That's super interesting. I think there's a lot actually take out of that as practical recommendations here. When it comes to your development and your perspectives on all, let's say, presentations in general, you have now several years of experience in that whole field. Are there things that you now have a different view on than you had when you were starting in? May it be some practical things that you thought at the beginning, okay, this is how I do it, this is a good part of doing a presentation, where you now think with all that experience, I don't think so? Or any other thing?
Let me think. Yeah, the main thing that springs to mind was, so in the last year I joined, I think 18 different trainings myself as a participant on public speaking. Some in person, some online, just practicing my craft, seeing what works and taking the best in order to serve people in the workshops or in other situations. And at the beginning, I was mainly focused, I knew, okay, content, we have content dialed down. Like I trust that we are credible enough that we have our sources correct and we did our research. Then I focus on delivery. And I mentioned all those mistakes. At first, I really focused on all the things and I came into my head and I lost authenticity. But what I kind of picked up on very early on when saying, hey, I'm going to invest, however, like 25,000 euros, I think, into courses. And I in the last years, actually, I joined more than worth of 50,000 euros. But some I got gifted because I asked people, hey, can I join this training for free? And like, I always thought it's all about delivery. But then I realized, hey, if you don't first are able to be confident and have fun while presenting, then your delivery will not really matter. And so something that really shifted then, I first started courses thinking, hey, how can I present better? How can I become more engaging? But most of the courses that I've did to this day, and the last year, the 18 courses, all had to do with mindset of what to do in front of a presentation, what to do during a presentation when you're nervous. And only after a full year in all those courses can I say, yes, I focused enough on the mindset part where I really enjoy speaking, where I feel really confident doing it. And only after a full year now did I just reach out to a coach to give me like training like on like how do I present, how do I speak? Because only now I see myself fully ready to be able to do it in a way that I end up enjoying it and doing it in a way where I really feel confident about it.
It's an ongoing learning process then, I think, right?
Yeah.
maybe until forever, who knows, because circumstances will always change, trends change, channels to present to potentially change. So
yeah, but typically it's like variations of the same thing.
the basics stay the same, I guess, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like if you feel confident, the thing is, if you gave a presentation in front of, I didn't, but if you gave a presentation in front of 10,000 people, even if you're in like a new setup environment, you present to 500, that's relatively easy, right? So, but yeah, like just how you can get into this element that you present more confidently and with more fun, I think that's the main focus point I had, and that's what really shifted.
Yeah, it's a super interesting shift of mindset here, I think, also when it comes to preparing. I think super valuable. Let us take a step back from practical presentations to your career and your career path so far after graduating. Of course, we now know that you're self-employed, that you're working as that coach. However, as you told me before, this is not the only activity that you're doing or that you have done in the last years.
Yeah.
Can you give us a broad overview about your activities and how your day-to-day work life looks like?
Like right now, my day-to-day?
Yeah, let's start with right now, but also maybe all the activities that you've done in the last years.
Okay.
Or not all of them, it's
like
the most important ones.
I wonder what probably, like, maybe we can start right now. So if I look at what I typically aim to do on Monday, I want to have all the meetings, because since Maastricht, I started really valuing going into a deep state of flow and being able to focus. So if possible, I do my meetings on Monday. And what I do on Monday kind of just developed with my focus on YouTube and all those viral things, that I coach 3 people on their YouTube channels. Mm-hmm. So one guy is called Philip Hum. He's about storytelling. Mm-hmm. And when he started, he had 3,000 subscribers, and now he's at, I think he's approaching 200,000. Wow. And all was like talking about strategy, like what could be an interesting video idea, discussing scripts, coming up with titles and thumbnails. And just seeing him grow also made me restart YouTube, because it's like,
So you do YouTube videos yourself?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I started again 3 weeks ago. It's I know like it takes some time, because before I talked more about social skills, and I once learned Italian in 50 days to surprise my girlfriend. And then I went to a therapist for 6 weeks, and I filmed the entire thing. And I told my own story in that. So I was really searching, and I was trying out. And you can imagine that, like with YouTube, it's not the ideal thing for growth if you kind of scatter yourself so much. Yeah. But now I'm really like, okay, I'm in the world of presentation skills. So now I'm really shifting the channel towards that. And before it was more, so the Complete Presenter, the company we're having, where we're giving B2B workshops, there the real main aim is to help young professionals to master presentation skills and accelerate their careers, with a big focus on online. But now with the YouTube channel, I'm also going to take it more towards focusing on keynote speakers and public speakers, which is interesting because I haven't really given many keynotes myself. Yeah. But I think I can really add something to it with the YouTube focus. And that's my current situation, where I have the YouTube calls and my YouTube channel. And then other times it's also building systems for the Complete Presenter company, because the organization of a training is very similar. Like you reach out to people, then you sell it, and then you organize it, like implement the training, then you organize the training, you do the training, you do some after evaluation, see if there are other opportunities. So it's a similar cycle. So here I'm like really building systems, and then kind of also having other trainers train for us. So for instance, we gave a lot of workshops at the Technical University of Eindhoven. Okay. And I kind of helped the development of the courses, but now other trainers are doing that, which is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. And then some days I give workshops still as a freelancer. Okay. So I started because figuring this out is like, it takes time to build like a startup, we all know, right? Or we can all imagine. But the cool thing is that I kind of give freelance trainings ever so often. Like I was in Porto 2 weeks ago, I was in Munich last week, I gave an online workshop for Zeiss this week. And this kind of like fuels the money side of things. And I can also try things and develop myself as a trainer. And then we kind of take that and I'm able to focus on Complete Presenter, the brand, my YouTube channel, like the creative outlets. And that's a super blessed situation where I'm able to work and earn enough from a few days of work to then focus on the things that have the long-term potential.
Yeah, this is interesting when it comes to allocating the different resources. Of course, as you said, the monetary resources, how to allocate and reallocate them. But of course, your personal resources. I mean, how do you balance that or organize yourself? Because I think what a lot of self-employed people, their fate, I would say, of course, is it's not always that easy to have that distinction between, let's say, private life and professional life with all of those activities, and it's super, super flexible.
Yeah.
How do you look at that from your own experience?
Actually, I took a lot of things from the Maastricht time that worked while I was here, because there was, like in high school, I was average in my grades and I didn't really care as much. Whereas here I had like this objective of, hey, I want to go to California and I want to have an awesome time while studying. So I kept asking myself like this question, like how can I go there while having fun? And then I just went really deep into study skills. So I remember I was in this room looking at studying courses, and I found out this one rule that however much time you give to a project, that's how long it takes. So if you say, okay, I will study until 8 p.m., then until 8 p.m. you'll finish it. Whereas if you say I will finish everything by 2 and I'm not allowed to do study afterwards, you will be able to finish studying by 2. So I set that rule at Maastricht times. Hey, I'm only allowed to work until 2 p.m. and study, and afterwards I'm going to do sports. That's where I read the people skills books, etc. And I took something similar to my work life, where I don't work after 5 p.m. unless it's like a meeting where I develop myself. And then sometimes on Wednesdays I have a so-called flex day.
Okay.
So on Wednesday I can do whatever I feel like. So if I feel like working, then I work. If I feel like learning, then I learn. If I feel like going to the spa, then I go to the spa. Like Wednesday, I know I can just do whatever is required. And then it gives me enough breathing space for Thursday and Friday to, again, go into the deep work mode. And then on the weekend, I generally take off as well.
Okay.
So I have Saturday, Sunday off all the time. And Wednesday is flexible. And it's cool because, if there's stuff you want to get done, then you have a free day without any meetings, without any work, and you can just do it. But then you can also do it until 11, and then you do some sports at 11, and it's so nice to have this day.
Yeah, it sounds like good organization actually here.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, but I think I know it's more difficult to apply as if you are employed, right? My girlfriend is working at the European Central Bank as a trainee, and there you work from Monday till Friday, so she doesn't have that freedom. But especially here as a student, you have your courses, but you have entire freedom of how you roll it. Yeah. So I think you could implement something similar where you say, hey, I want to have good time and good grades, so I'll finish studying at 3. Yeah. And Thursday is my free day where I can study if I feel like it, or I can not. Yeah. And you could even convince some friends to join, and then you always have people to do something with.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and transitioning that to professional life also I think is super interesting. Mm-hmm. You mentioned Complete Presenter. Yes. And a company that you founded. So not just being a freelancer, you're also the owner of or the founder of a company now. Mm-hmm. To get every one of us on the same page, what is Complete Presenter? What is the difference between the tasks that you're doing as a freelancer, and how does it feel like to be officially a founder? Yeah.
So I think that cuts back to the previous question, how did I get there?
To balance all that.
Yeah, so I kind of finished graduating. I did this degree as a trainer, and I tried myself already. Then I started my YouTube channel, and I did an online course on confidence, because 25 of those books back then I already read on the topic of confidence. But then the interesting thing was that 95% of my time I focused on my YouTube channel, 5% of the time was trainings, but 100% of my income came from the trainings. Yeah. So I think around 1.5 years ago, I said to myself, let's change something. And for 1 year, so I always like to give myself timelines of for how long I'm just going to focus on that part. So for 1 year, I'm just going to focus on trainings, and I will pause my YouTube channel. Okay. So that's when I said, okay, presentation skills, that's where I can help people the most. That's what I enjoy the most. So let's go for that. Mm-hmm. And then all I did was accepting more freelance projects as a trainer, signing up to 18 to 20 different trainings in the last 15 months. And it was such a cool decision, because then I was invited to give a training for Adidas in Amsterdam, and there was half in person and half online. And there I met the co-founder, because he gave the online session 8 hours, and people told him, like, when we saw it was 8 hours, we were afraid. 8 hours online training, horrible. But afterwards, it was one of the most engaging 8 hours I've ever had. And when I saw that feedback and I really clicked with the guy, I was like, oh, all right. Like, he also been focusing on public speaking the last 5 years. That seems perfect. And the in-person session with Adidas also went great. So I guess he thought highly of me as well.
Yeah.
And then we started strategizing, and we even made a SWOT analysis. But at some point we just said, you know what? Let's just give it a try again for like 1 year, and let's just see where it takes us. So like I said, I love giving myself those time spans, because then you can really focus on it without all the doubts. Is it the right thing? Is it not? He's like, nope, I'm just going to focus on it without limiting yourself in a way where you say, like, if you say I'm going to do this for the next 50 years, you really limit yourself as well, right? So we said it, and right now we give more trainings ourselves to TUE. I still do my freelance stuff. I recently coached, the world champion of public speaking, like the Toastmasters.
And I didn't know that there was a World Cup.
Yeah, there's I think 35,000 people.
Okay, wow.
There's a club called Toastmasters. Okay. I know Maastricht at least has 1, maybe even 2 or 3 clubs. We can practice your presentation skills.
Yeah.
And he won I was coaching him more for his YouTube channel, but then it's step by step focused more on his mindset and the confidence, and how to present with confidence and fun. And he also 1 month ago he won the world championship of public speaking 2025.
And you were his coach?
Yeah, one of his coaches. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was a cool testimony. Yeah. So if you go on the website now, you can see the brands.
Well, congratulations, by the way.
Yeah. Like I didn't. So that now that's a testimonial, which I think it's great to always have. And you see the brands that I worked with, but also my co-founder worked with, and kind of collected it as our wall of testimonials.
Sure.
And it's an interesting time where we focus on that while doing my own stuff.
Sure.
Also more difficult though is that 1 month ago he hit his head with a surfboard. Even 6 weeks ago, he has a concussion and he couldn't work the last 6 weeks. And so we had to let go of some projects. Some we gave to the world champion. So yesterday, the world champion of public speaking gave a training for us.
Wow.
Awesome, yeah. And he's a great friend of ours, so we knew him before.
Still having that title in your portfolio, I think, brings a lot of reputation with it, I would say.
You can just like name drop this. Like, I did this once or twice, just like bringing it in. Yeah.
Well, on the other hand, best wishes to your co-founder still, obviously.
But that changes, of course, the business things, because now I'm doing the YouTube coaching. I give freelance trainings. I started my own YouTube channel again. And then I give, then we also have the Complete Presenter brand. Yeah. So that just goes to show that, yes, like co-founding a company, and it can be tough, right? And it can be fulfilling as well.
Sure.
Something that worked for me is because I had multiple legs financially to stand on. Yeah. But it can also limit your growth. So I think it really depends on your risk aversion. But if you're more, I don't know, I'm not really risk averse. I'm more like very easily intrigued. So I had those different legs, and now even though this will lead less business for Complete Presenter, I just focus more time on YouTube and kind of take over as much as I can. But what do I know? I'm 27, so I'm a 7-year-old adult. I keep reminding myself of that. And like, I don't know nothing, and I'm just experimenting, and I'm trying out, and I give myself those little mini experiments. Yeah. And so far that worked out really well. Like I came into unexpected situations, and I enjoy my path, and yeah. But I also think that when it comes to organizing a startup, or organizing a company, of course, there are also, of course, all these administrative processes that have nothing really to do with the content that you, or the topic that your company is about, all the business side and so on. I can just assume, but I guess it is also quite a new experience in also learning by doing a bit all of that stuff. Yeah. Of course, you have a business background, academic one. That really, like, the thing is, like, when I finished Maastricht, I said that the business thing, I was good at it, good enough to go to California at least. It doesn't really like drive me as much. I wanted to do something that has the potential to benefit other people. But now, weirdly enough, funnily enough, focusing on more impact, all this business background, it kind of really helps me. And also the structures I developed studying here help me as well in a way that, I don't know, I'm tracking my stress with this thing. It's, I don't really have high stress ever.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Because also I read a book called The Surrender Experiment.
Okay.
Because before I was very controlling, and it also, like, the main idea is also to surrender and let go a little bit more and see things falling into place. And that book tremendously helped me to just take things more easy, more chill, and still get stuff done, but without the stress combined with it. But then also, like, focusing on things with your mindset when it comes to public speaking, that also helps you to kind of manage the stress in your life, you know, like, yeah.
It is super fascinating. Let us wrap up or go back to, again, presenting skills and presenting in general. And as we are, of course, the SBE podcast here from the university, again, to, let's say, a student scenario or maybe some advices or first implications or maybe where to go, where to start. From a student perspective, and if a student wants to improve his or her presentation styles and does not have that much experience, where to start, what to think about?
Okay, I'm going to give one very practical thing and one more theoretical that I think has a powerful impact, but maybe doesn't really, it's not as easy as to understand.
There we go.
So let's start with the more theoretical one. So the world champion of public speaking, before he was the world champion, he was in this club for 8 years and he always had like a bottleneck. And in many presentations afterwards, he came to me and said, oh, like the people didn't laugh, it wasn't great, I didn't entertain them, I didn't have a good feeling. And other presentations, he was like, yes, this was awesome. And the interesting thing is that maybe I'll go back a little bit more. We always have certain questions that we keep asking ourselves that really run our lives. So back then, I already mentioned this earlier, I said, my question was, how can I go to California while having a great time here? And some other students might have how can I pass this exam with as little effort as possible? You see, it's a question we kind of ask ourselves subconsciously that has a completely different impact of how you do your exams and how you live your life. And I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but to be aware of those questions. And many times when people present, they also have certain questions, but it's more like, how can I impress other people? How can I not forget what I want to say? How can I make them laugh? And when we did them, I kind of let him write down all the questions he kind of asks himself in front of a presentation. And those were the ones that came up. How can I make them laugh, etc. And I asked him, okay, how many of those questions you ask yourself are inside your control? And he looked at it and he said, none. And then I said, okay, let's kind of bring in some new focus questions, they're called, that can help you a lot more. And then he wrote down, how can I have fun? Which is also one of my big life mottos. Like, hey, how can I have fun? How can I entertain? Which is still inside this like control, right? Because you can shift the content to more of an entertaining angle. And I think, how can I serve? I think that was the last one. Like, how can I give something to them? Which are all inside his control. But now, when he was preparing and he noticed himself stressing out, he said, okay, how can I have fun? Well, maybe I improvise a little bit more. And then he did something else. How can I have fun? I'm going to go for a walk now. And he kept asking himself those questions. And then he won the European Championship. He won the semifinal in the US and he won the final. And he came to me and said, asking myself, how can I have fun? How can I serve? How can I entertain? That made the biggest difference for him. And I know, like, the world champion, that's kind of like here.
Of course.
But if you prepare for your next presentation, like, what are some questions you would ask yourself? How can I have fun means letting go. It's just a university presentation. How can I serve means, how can I present this in a way that it is more interesting for the people sitting in the room? Because most people just care about the grade. And when you have those questions in your mind, it makes the biggest difference. And my full life now, I keep asking myself, how can I have more fun? And I have a lot of fun because of it. That's a more theoretical one. Did that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay, nice. What are some questions you could ask yourself?
Maybe exactly that one. How can I go in there in the most natural way without pretending to be someone or to be a certain role that I'm not. You know what I mean?
Lovely, yeah.
And of course, it depends on the situation. If it's also with university presentations, is it just a small one? Is it a big one? Is it one for your graduation? Whatever.
Yeah.
But I think, or at least it helped me all the time to not overthink it and try to be, that and that role because it's about that and that topic.
Yeah.
It's about, okay, this is what I created. These are my findings. This is the summary of my thesis, whatever, right? I put so much effort in the way I did it to get to this content, and here we are at the content perspective again.
Yeah.
Just present it like I think it is right. Because I know best about the topic, how I came up with it, and the content and so on. So I try to be as natural as possible. Hey, this is what I found out. And maybe it is not the preferred style that some people listen to. Some people like more very, straightforward, serious presentations, which I think is totally fine.
Yeah.
I once had a professor who was just reading his lectures, just reading. He had then, 45 minutes or maybe even longer. He was a history professor, just reading. And that was his style. And some people liked to listen to that without any visuals, whatever. Super interesting topic. He did a very good job because the content that he delivered was great. But of course, it was like listening to an audiobook or something. And this was that some people like the most. Others like more engaging stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a range in between of that.
And that's all outside your control, right?
Exactly.
Where it's like, hey, how can I be the most natural? Your brain will come up with answers.
Yeah.
How can I not forget this? You come up with the answer, I should write down my full presentation on a slide of paper, so I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
But if you focus, okay, how can I bring this topic alive? If you're a professor and you ask yourself, how can I make this alive? Or how can I make sure that this idea sticks?
Yeah.
You will come up with a completely different answer and a completely different presentation. Yeah. And one observation I made, like right now we're talking and you have a very natural talking style, but the introduction, you read in this very like formal way. How would you present the introduction if you ask yourself before, how can I make this in the most natural way?
Yeah, this is a good question actually. Mm-hmm. I think maybe in a more or less similar way like we had the discussion so far with the conversation. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, of course, in the perception of introducing the guest, hoping that everybody understands what the guest is doing, why he is here, and what the topic is to expect from the podcast. Yeah. This is something that, of course, is more static.
It is more static.
It is more static. The information is more static.
Because it's a very information where you don't know those details because
exactly.
we just met today in person. Exactly. We talked online. But then if you ask yourself, okay, it's very static. How can I make this more natural? Maybe you could also then come up with an answer of like, okay, instead of me reading this, I could maybe have a question like to them that might be a little bit more interesting introduction. Exactly. Like, okay, Jakob, tell us one thing that everybody knows about you and one thing only few people know about you.
Exactly.
And then in the conversation, you ask about their background. Like, I'm not saying like there's a right or wrong answer, but the questions you ask yourself lead to a massively different outcome. Exactly. As a professor, as a student, in any situation.
And I think this is also interesting maybe for the next episode that I'm doing here, how I will do the introduction then.
I'm going to watch it and compare.
Yeah, please. I think this is super interesting also to learn from my side or to get some learning. So this is what I announced in the introduction. I hope to get some learnings for myself, but hopefully also even more for the listeners, obviously.
Nice.
But last point, the practical recommendation that you wanted to give.
I mentioned some, like I think recording yourself and then doing the 3+1 technique, where you look at 3 things you do well and 1 thing to improve. Yeah, I think like most of us are like the main reason we don't present as well as we can is because of fear and lack of confidence and lack of fun, right? Which kind of ties back the confidence fun topic. But one big reason is also when we ask other people for advice, what do we ask them? What can I improve? Like, what did you like it? Yes, no? What can I do better? Bop, 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 bop. So I would like a little challenge for 30 days. Whenever you present something to somebody or you kind of talk to your roommate to prepare your presentation, just ask them, what are 3 things I did well? That's it.
Okay.
Forget about the improvement for a second. That comes later. And what you will see is that, A, there's already many things you do well, and that will ease yourself, and then you will do things even better.
Yeah.
And then you also notice that, hey, that's actually, public speaking is actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
And once you're at that state, then you can say, what are 3 things I did well? What are 1 thing that I did better? So for the next month, only ask for positive feedback and see where it takes you. That's my little practical challenge.
That's a great practical, not just challenge, but great practical recommendation, I guess. Jakob, so many insights today in this episode, so many great tips and tricks about presenting, but of course your story, your professional life after graduating here at at Maastricht University. Maybe one last question to wrap it up. What's next for you? What are you looking for in the near future? Any goals, anything that you would like to achieve, or is it just going with the flow?
Yeah, so for Complete Presenter, before we did more 1 or 2 day workshops, but imagine you do a 1-day surfing camp. There's only so good you can get. So we're building something more like the Complete Presenter Academy,
cool,
where we help teams to, over the span of 5 months, practice, info, practice, in order to really get to a great surfing/public speaking level. And for my YouTube channel, like I was still playing my head around, should I focus it also on professionals? But now I just committed here for the next year. I'm just going to focus my YouTube channel on upcoming public speakers or current public speakers and see where it takes me. So they're a bit more shifted apart, but then in 1 year I can see how far did I push those 2 things that I now publicly announced on the podcast.
Awesome, great plans. Very, very last question. You said that you spent about, I think, 25,000 euros or something on trainings, but also on books about public speaking and whatever. And that you read so many books.
Like there's not them.
Exactly. That would have been weird, 25,000 euros for books. Anyway, you know what I mean. You read so many books. Can you think of one day writing a book yourself about that topic?
Public speaking, not. Mm-hmm. Like I also never, like I bought 1 or 2 public speaking books, but it's not the same. You just want to see people. So I can really see myself like diving even deeper, focusing on a YouTube channel, and then building a course or like a academy around it one day. Writing a book, maybe, yeah. But then it will be probably on a bit of a different topic, yeah.
We will see. Anyway, whatever you do, best of luck with that. It was
Thank you.
Great fun doing that episode with you, Jakob. And hopefully see you anytime, anywhere soon. Goodbye.
Awesome. Thanks so much.